Hello everybody, this is Jurassic Adventures back again with another video, and this time we'll be taking a look at the highly anticipated but actually very quick arriving Hammond Collection Carnotaurus. This one is quite special. It is the first of this brand new sort of large dinosaur assortment, and also it is the Carnotaurus, very highly anticipated species for this line, and I think this thing looks really great so far. Before we get too deep into this review, I just want to say I got this figure from Amazon. It went up briefly for order and I managed to snag one, and it finally arrived, albeit a little bit late, but I'm still glad to be making this review. Now we are going to go over the packaging. Now the 2024 packaging actually has some differences compared to some of the older packaging. The main one you are going to see is this large Carnotaurus render, and for all of the 2024 figures they have a large render on the front of the box of a dinosaur. And I think that is not the greatest option. I think it makes it look a little bit less premium and cheap, and I was a big fan of the more sort of streamlined packaging that we had going on before, but this still doesn't look too bad, and it looks pretty similar to what we got before. Nothing too different. We still got those palm trees down there, and also the text that says Carnotaurus Hammond Collection, and then now instead of that big T-Rex logo, we got this circular one on that left corner of the box there. And then of course that windowed packaging where you can see the Carnotaurus peeking out. Around the right side of the box we have the Hammond Collection logo, and then on the left side of the box we have the render of the Carnotaurus. We have the Hammond Collection logo again, and then we also have the Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom logo down there, as you can see. And then just on the back of the box we also have another Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom logo. We have the Carnotaurus, and then a few details getting pointed out, one being those glass eyes, not really glass, but we'll get into that later. We got an alternate pose of this figure, and then we have that blurb down there that you can read if you so please. And then we got a preview for Owen Grady, Velociraptor Blue, and the Dimetrodon. Without further ado though, let's get this thing right out the box. With this figure out of the box, what you want to do is take this tail piece, and it has this sort of octagonal shape, and you're just going to slot that in, and it will give a nice little click, and then you have your Carnotaurus ready to go. With the Carnotaurus out of the box, you can see that it looks very nice overall. One of the first things you can notice about the Hammond Collection Carnotaurus is this thing is utterly detailed. From head to tail, it is covered in really nice spikes, different size scales, and also a bunch of folds that really bring this thing all together. You have the ridges for the rib cage, and these folds on the neck, and all these different size scales on the face that are just super nicely sculpted, and they all work together to make a really seamless looking figure sculpt wise, and I appreciate what Mattel has done, and I think it looks really great and also pretty accurate to the movie. A couple of really notable things that I want to point out about the sculpt that shows you that Mattel is sort of caring and improving as they go with this line are the teeth. The teeth are actually separately molded in this sort of bone white, and then also the feet are much smaller and a better scale overall for this figure. It can still stand perfectly fine, but it really, none of these figures never really needed these big feet if they had proper proportions, and this one has those small feet and those sharp teeth, which just make it that much better. For deco, this thing is pretty great as well. It is overall molded in a sort of orangey red plastic, and we have these overlaid stripes that are almost look sort of airbrushed, and they look really great. They are in a sort of dark gray, I'd say brown tone, and they go to like halfway down the tail, so not too bad on the striping there, and they're on the thigh. They don't continue down the leg, and they don't have him on the arm at all. But I think overall the striping looks really nice, especially on the neck and sort of like the rib cage. It looks very aggressive and cool, as you can see. So I'm really digging the deco with that sort of striping there. And then On the underbelly, we got sort of a gray tan color that goes from the bottom of the jaw to the sort of base of the tail, which I wish they had continued it maybe a little bit more, but that's okay. And then in terms of the sort of claw paint, we only have the toenails painted, no dew claws painted, and no finger claws are painted as well, which is a bit of a disappointment, but I don't know, it's kind of expected at this point, unfortunately. I hope they improve that at some point. But on the face, it is like that sort of same dark brown color for the most part, and then there are some parts of that base plastic showing through alongside with some sort of printed on color variation with that yellow hint on the snout right there, which I think looks very nice, and it gives it, you know, just a little bit more character and a little bit more of a natural look. And then of course for the inside of the mouth, that is a sort of muted purple color, and I really like that. So overall, I think the deco on this thing is really cool, and I quite enjoy how this figure looks. Next, we're going to move into one of my least favorite parts about this figure, and that is going to be this glass eye. As you can see, the pupils aren't very round at all. They still haven't really improved these since the T-Rex, which is a bummer because the Brachiosaurus actually had really nice glass eyes. They were darker and they were orange, but when there was light shining through there, you could definitely see that there was a round pupil and everything. And even when there wasn't, it really fit that dinosaur in particular because it already had, you know, dark eyes. So for something like this where it's supposed to have really more lifelike eyes, I don't think that works, because when I just, you know, turn off this light, it's you can't really see the eye. It kind of looks possessed because it's just dark, and that doesn't really that isn't the most appealing to me, at least. I don't know if you guys enjoy these. I really don't, and I'm kind of sad that they decided to really implement them in every single figure, because, you know, they it's almost like they listened to the T-Rex complaints where the pupil wasn't round, and then they're like, oh, all the dinosaurs in this line's eyes are, you know, bad. They that's what they thought or seemed to think, which wasn't the case. I would much prefer painted eyes. Even on the T-Rex, I would have preferred painted eyes opposed to glass eyes, just because I feel like it looks just so much cleaner and better, and this doesn't exactly. So yeah, it's just my 2 cents on the glass eyes. I think it's a really odd design choice, but if you enjoy it, you know, good for you. It's not for me. With that out of the way, we can move into the articulation of this figure, and it has quite a bit of articulation. So first off, the neck at base can, you know, move around, not any side to side in that initial joint, but it can move up a great deal, and it also can move down a great deal as well. And sort of same with this second joint that's closer to the head. It can move down a pretty decent amount, it can move up a pretty decent amount, but the side to side is kind of lacking. You can get some, but that's mostly when the head is a little bit more flush. That's when you can start to see that more side to side range of motion. That could have been fixed with a rubber piece on the neck, but not too big of a deal overall, I'd say. With the mouth, it is this really stupid connected opening mechanism that is kind of on the T-Rex. This time it doesn't have a ratchet, but I mean, for crying out loud, we did not need this at all. This only hinders the figure because now the mouth cannot really shut too flushly. It can shut, you know, decently, right? But you're never gonna get that true flush that you could get if they were independent. So realistically, that is super annoying, and I do not like that, and it's over-engineered for what it is. The arms are rather big on this figure, but they are articulated a pretty decent amount. They can go out at the shoulder, move forward and backward, and then they also have this elbow joint, which, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think the Carnotaurus could ever even do this, like, realistically. I don't think that's how the bones work, but I guess it's cool we have that articulation. Maybe a paleo nerd will correct me in the comments, but I don't think that's realistic. Anyways, the legs at the hip can move out and move back in. They can go a full 360, and then we got the side to side movement. They go forward and backward with that swivel, and then same for all these other pieces. This will also go side to side, and Same with the feet, and then those can also turn around. So, you know, really great leg articulation there that allows for a lot of posability and cool stuff in that regard. For the tail, we have this ball joint that moves all around, and then we have the rubber segment also on its own independent ball joint, can, you know, move all around, and then it has that, you know, bendability, that posability there. So really overall pretty good articulation on this thing, so not a disappointment there. For a size comparison, we are going to take a look at the Carnotaurus next to Dr. Henry Wu. Next, here is the Carnotaurus next to everyone's favorite spitter. Here it is next to everyone's favorite spitter. And then here is the Carnotaurus next to the Hammond Collection Ceratosaurus. I must say that the proportions of these newer figures are much better than some of these older ones. And then here is the Hammond Collection Carnotaurus next to its biggest rival, in my opinion, and that is going to be the 2018 Action Attack Carnotaurus. There are certain features I like about both more than the other, but this 2018 Carnotaurus is still solid in my opinion. And then here is the T-Rex next to the Carnotaurus. I really wish they gave the T-Rex some of the attention to detail that they did give the Carnotaurus, but otherwise I think that the Carnotaurus is a really great size, and it scales up next to everything really nicely, so I'm quite pleased with the size of this figure. For my overall thoughts on this figure, I think this figure is a really great addition to the Hammond Collection line. I'm glad we got this sort of larger assortment, and I can't wait to see what comes. Hopefully a Lost World Stegosaurus is honestly at the top of my wish list at this point for this assortment. But yeah, I'm super thrilled with this figure overall. I think it's really great. My biggest complaint is going to be those glass eyes, and then second to that is going to be that articulated one, but I definitely recommend picking this guy up. So overall, I think this is probably one of the best Hammond Collection figures, so yeah, go for it. Now for my overall thoughts on the Hammond Collection Carnotaurus, I think that this is one of the best Hammond Collection figures to date, if not the best, so I definitely recommend picking this guy up. My biggest complaint is going to be those glass eyes, but other than that, I think this thing is super solid with the sculpt and deco, and the articulation is quite nice on this figure, so I really don't think you can go wrong, and the price tag is not too steep at $35. And that, guys, is it for the review segment of this video. And without further ado, we can get into some of the paint modifications. I have now transitioned over to the painting studio, and the first thing I want to do is fix these eyeballs. So the first thing I'm going to do is take this fine detail brush and just cover the entire eyeball in a base coat of gray. After that, I'm going to take sort of a yellow, not too yellow though, with a little bit of orange in there, and just cover the entire eyeball again in that color. And what the light gray does is it allows that yellow to pop so much better and just be more opaque. Here I am taking an even lighter shade and just doing the middle of the eyeball sort of in a circle. And then after that, I am going to take the brush with some black and I am going to carefully do a circular pupil. Now this is hard, take your time on all of these steps. But after that, I'm going to take a paintbrush, same fine detail brush, and just do a tiny white light catch in the corner of that eyeball by the pupil. And after that, the last step for the eyeballs is just some gloss varnish to really make those look wet. Now that the eye is fixed and looking much better, we are going to take a dark warm gray and paint all of the claws with a fine detail brush as well. And for this, we're just going to be painting those finger claws as well as that dew claw. And last but not least, just over all of these claws, we are going to paint a satin varnish just to give it a little bit of shine, but not as much of that gloss. And that, guys, is it for the paint modification and review of the Hammond Collection Carnotaurus. If you guys found this video helpful or enjoyed this video, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. This is Jurassic Adventures, and I'll see you in the next video.